Have you found your dream job as a developer? Or are you stuck in an unfulfilling job? On WeAreDevelopers.com, you find over 1,000 jobs in Europe that fit the tech stack that you want to work with, and salaries go up to $130K. All you have to do is create a free profile, and you automatically get matched with jobs that fit your requirements. So what are you waiting for? Create your free profile and let companies apply to you now.
Zeiss.
I think you should go to Zeiss.
Zeiss Digital Partners.
Be amazed of knowledge, industries, manufacturing, optics, hardware, software,
AR, VR,
Machine Learning,
infrastructure.
Ich will nicht aufstehen und irgendwie mir denken, scheiße, ich muss meinen Job machen, sondern was kann ich heute machen?
You will make it happen. Do it.
Welcome to the last talk of the day. I already feel sad saying those words. Now we've talked a bit about AI today. We've learned that garbage in is garbage out, and we've learned how difficult it can be to build some of these AI models. We're going to go a little bit deeper into a walkthrough for building responsible AI frameworks. Now I'm really looking forward to this. Our next speaker is a program manager for responsible AI at Google. Please give it up for the wonderful Toju Duke.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. I wasn't very good at reminding myself of my German, so I was thinking of saying good evening, and Guten Tag came to mind. Bear with me, I'm not going to attempt to speak German here because clearly I'm not very good at it. But yeah, I'm here to talk to you about responsible AI. And a lot of people hear about responsible AI, they have lots of questions, some people don't care, some people think about ethical AI, and on it goes. So I'll go through a few responsible AI examples, speak a little bit about what it means, and then share some examples on how you can implement responsible AI frameworks if you work in the field. And if you don't work in the field, that's okay. I'm just going to ask you to listen like a practitioner who's working in tech. I do say it's the responsibility of everyone working in tech to think about society, think about the impact of your products and your platforms that you build and how it affects society. So that also applies to tech in general, and it also applies to AI and ML applications. Okay, I'm just going to move the slides up to the top because I don't think it started at the beginning. There you go. All right. Right, so in today's world, we've heard that we're like in an industrial revolution. We're in the midst of a world change. There are lots of AI technological breakthroughs coming out in the world today. Every single day there's something new coming out. And the question is always about AI summers and springs and winters. When is the next AI winter going to come about? What's all this hype about AI anyway? Well, research shows that in 2022, which is this year, we'll have about 20.6 billion investments in AI startups. So I don't see any AI winter happening anytime soon. We have a lot of skeptics who believe that the AI winter could happen. And AI winter, for those who are not in the field and don't understand what it means, is basically when no one cares about AI anymore. I don't see that happening anytime soon, but that's just my prediction. But regardless of what it is, AI is taking the news every day, AI and ML. Lots of people are getting into the field. There are lots of breakthroughs happening, and it's a very, very, very important part of technology that we need to be aware of today. What is AI? I'll assume everyone here knows what AI is, but just in case, It's basically building machines that are like humans, right, with human intelligence. And when we say machines, we're not thinking about Terminator or robots, but it's just little machines that we have in our softwares or in our devices, and on it goes. Now, we have lots and lots of AI applications out there. Some we're aware of, some we're not aware of. You know, we have our facial recognition. You pick up your smartphone. I'm assuming everyone here still has a smartphone or is using a smartphone. If you have any Nokia 3310 users, that's fine, I forgive you. But if you do have a smartphone, many times we use our face to unlock the phone. Well, I do. There are lots of content about privacy and biometrics with facial recognition. At this stage, I'm like, if it's easy for me to unlock my phone, I'm going to use my face. But that's using AI. You go on Netflix, and you get a recommendation on Stranger Things. Or if you're English and you live in England, you can get a recommendation of The Crown, or Bridgerton, or something else that is more scary than that. That is using AI. Some people hate AI, right, because they don't understand what it is. And they go, my data, my data. But then you go on Netflix or your whatever streaming device that you use, Roku, if that's still out there, or Amazon Prime, and you get a recommendation and you're happy. Yes, you know, this thing actually really knows me. And we have so many more examples of AI, right? Like the self-driving cars that people are really scared of. I mean, I was one of those people, like last year, I'll say I'll never go into a self-driving car. No, I'm a bit more trusting, so we'll see. Right, so let's look at some AI use cases, which in this section, I'm going to hone in on AI for social good. I personally got interested in AI when I saw the uses that it could have to solve some of the world's problems today. And I was like, really? You mean AI could have the potential to cure cancer someday? Why is no one not talking about this? Why are people not working in it? Yes, I know we do have AI engineers and ML engineers and practitioners, and I'm hoping that some of you here today are within the field. But AI has so much potential beyond what we can even think or imagine. So let's start off with a project by Google called Project Euphonia. And I'm not sure that video is going to play. Let's see. No, it didn't play. Well, so I'll just go back to the video and talk about it. It's about a project called Project Euphonia, which is used, it's part of Google's disability projects. And it's using speech, people's speech, people who are speech impaired. It takes their speech, uses conversational AI, and builds a product for them where we can understand what they're saying. These are people who will never understand it. And this is one of them. Dimitri was someone who, you know, the AI system was taught his speech. Through speech recognition, we're able to understand the words that he was saying, and he was able to hear himself back, and other people could understand him. And that's helping someone's life. And, you know, if you're interested in stuff like this, I'll say go on YouTube. Just Google Project Euphonia, and you'll be able to see the example. We have another one from Microsoft, AI for Earth. Lots of work being done towards climate change and sustainability. It's all AI for social good. You know, using AI to help solve some of the world's top problems today. So there is lots of potential in AI. And another good use case for AI is healthcare, where we see a lot of robotics being applied in healthcare, and it's growing as we speak. But AI is being applied in healthcare. Now, of course, with everything that has upsides, there are downsides. So we'll go into the downsides, but I don't want to start off with a negative. I want us to be pumped up and hyped and happy about ML and AI. And I'm not a programmer, I'm a program manager, but sometimes I wonder and I ask myself, why are there not more people working in the field? And that's for you to answer if you're not working in the field. And there are probably many reasons, but I just feel it's a quick shift of transferable skills. I feel the way AI is growing today, right, the industry is going to grow, you know, in the next few years. And, you know, if you're not in the field, you probably want to upskill a little bit just to get in the field, because I feel like, you know, most of technology will be ML in the next few years. But that, again, that's my prediction. Don't go quoting me to Bloomberg. All right, so let's look at some recent AI breakthroughs. If you follow the AI ML world, you hear about DALL-E, or GPT-3, or Imagen, or Flamingo, or Gator. What are all of these? These are large generalist models, very scary, with so much potential. So Imagen, which is the diagram that you see there, you basically put in a prompt into an ML model, and it's coming up with an image. And you can write the most crazy thing whatsoever. A sushi with a brain, and it's going to come up with something. A cat eating a dog upside down, and it will come up with something. And the quality of these images is astounding. And it's very similar to DALL-E. DALL-E was recently launched by OpenAI. Very similar things. So there's so much amazing breakthroughs. And we can see that it's slowly graduating to AGI. AGI is artificial general intelligence, the part that everyone is scared of when Terminator will come to life. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, hopefully never. But the little breakthroughs that we have in the different AI applications mean that with time, we'll be able to compile all of these breakthroughs into something. Like self-driving cars, for instance. Self-driving cars has so many AI applications, from computer vision to NLP, natural language processing, to robotics, and on it goes. So, like I mentioned before, every day something new is coming up. The research scientists, the ML engineers, everyone working in the field is working on something new, some cutting-edge technology that wows us. I get excited. I don't know about you, but I do get excited about it. Now that hopefully I've pumped you up, you're all excited. If you're not working in AI or ML right now, you're like, I'm going to change my job. I'm going to talk to my manager tomorrow. I'm going to jump into AI and start working on it. I guess not. OK. Well, now that we know more about AI and what it is and how exciting it could be and how much potential it has, let's talk about what its challenges are, which are equally very, very important. I'll actually say AI's challenges is more important than its potential today. I'll give an example. This is Williams Isaac. Williams is a young man who lives in Detroit in Michigan. 2 years ago, Williams was coming back from work, drives into his driveway, and the policeman waiting for him. And right in front of his 5-year-old and 3-year-old daughters and his wife, he got arrested. And after 33 hours in prison, they found out, oops, we've got the wrong man. And I bet you can figure out quite easily what could have caused that. You got it right. Facial recognition gone wrong. Facial recognition is one of the most commonly used AI applications in the world today, and it's one of the most dangerous. And if you follow the space, you've probably heard these stories before. For me, it just annoys me. And I understand people are not doing this intentionally, like, the engineers and the developers building the systems are not intentionally pushing out a model that will arrest people tomorrow for crimes they did not commit. But I'm thinking of the implications on this young man and his family. Those 2 girls that saw their dad arrested right in front of them, they're never going to forget that. Let's not talk about his wife or the man himself. What about his job? Now he's got his name on a criminal record. And if he's applying for another job or for insurance, no one is going to hear or listen to, hey, I did not commit that crime. No one wants to know the story. It's evidential there, right in front of them, that the guy is supposed to be a criminal, and he's not. There's been lots of work on facial recognition in criminal justice systems in the US, especially after the murder of George Floyd in 2020. And some of the top tech companies actually pulled out their facial recognition software due to these issues. This is one that is quite close to home, the Siri case. It happened in the Netherlands last year, I believe. The Dutch government came up with this fantastic idea of trying to catch people who are frauding or are trying to steal the system when it comes to welfare. And they decided to focus on people from certain socioeconomic statuses, certain postcodes, see if they can catch them if they're trying to wing the system. and get them fined or potentially arrested. So a few group of people in the Netherlands, human rights activists and lawyers, were like, this is absolutely wrong. And they all stood up, raised the case, took the Dutch government to court, and they actually won the case. And you're probably thinking, what was wrong with that? You know, when I heard the story at first, I was like, okay, what was the problem here? And then you hear about it. First of all, they were following people, these guys that they were following, the people who live in these certain postcodes, they were actually surveilling them, taking their car registration numbers. That's against their privacy and their data. And then they were targeting people who were from poor backgrounds. Like, come on, maybe you should just allow them to fraud the system if they're really poor and they need the money. That's my opinion. I'm not saying be a criminal. But of all the problems to solve, and I hope there's no one from the Dutch government here, but even if you are, that's fine. But of all the problems to solve, why is it that one? And due diligence clearly wasn't done. There were no talks with human rights lawyers beforehand, or governance, or ethical people, you know, ethical practitioners, policymakers, to understand what the implications of that AI model could have on these people. Right, so that's another example. Let's move on to the third example we have here, which is AI in healthcare. I mentioned AI in healthcare before, right? And it's still being used, and it's really important, actually. DeepMind launched, they released a few papers a couple of years ago about their AI system beating radiologists and being able to come up with different results faster and better than a radiologist would do. And you know, that's one of the potentials of AI, is helping to do human tasks better and quicker than humans. So that's great. But on the flip side, one of the problems, major problems we have with AI is the data. Right? We all know that AI is being built, ML models are built from data. And where does the data come from? It comes from the internet. Literally, all the data comes from the internet. And who puts the data in the internet? Me and you. And are we perfect in life? No. So that means the data many times is very dirty, in my words. It's biased, it's toxic, it has issues. You know, there have been lots of escalations on Twitter and on the internet in the past few years as AI has been making breakthroughs. You know, you have examples of when you do a search on image search and you look for a CEO, and guess what? What images come up? White male. And you look for a nurse, what images come up? Women. You know, and this already propagates the bias we have in society. Now, coming back to healthcare, one of the issues with AI in healthcare is bias. And you see research shows that, for example, research shows that you have about maybe 60% of Caucasian women have the propensity to die from breast cancer. But in real life, you have people from colored backgrounds, colored skin, black people, are actually dying more from breast cancer. And it's not like the doctors are killing them. No, it's the data. There's not enough data that represents society. And unfortunately, ML models are built on insufficient data, or dirty data, as I'm saying it, and they're being spat out onto people and affecting people's lives. There's another example I can give. One more example. It's not on the slides. Recently, a top tech company as well pulled out their recruitment software. And it had been launched for about 3 years. And along the line, you know, some researcher kind of like tested it and found that, ooh, women are not being pulled up on this recruitment software. So once it sees a female name or a woman who's coming from a certain high school or secondary school, nah, it dumps down the CVs. And it was only taking male CVs. Why, you may ask? What's wrong with this AI system? Why is it so terrible? There are so many different reasons here, right? First of all, clearly, if women were involved in developing that ML system, I don't think that would have happened, because they would have thought about themselves and said, you know, put themselves in the shoes of someone else. Again, what really pains me with this kind of stories is the amount of women that have been affected from that without realizing it. Imagine a woman who probably went on maternity leave, took a year or 3 years, as the case is in Germany. Very good woman, let's assume she's an engineer like yourselves. And she's ready to go back to work. And she starts putting in her application using this recruitment software, and she keeps on getting rejected. And then she starts asking herself, what's wrong with me? Is it because I took time off work? Am I not very good at what I do anymore? And her self-confidence, self-esteem goes down. And there's no reason. She's not getting any reasons back to say why she's been rejected. And unfortunately, if a researcher did not test that software and find out the issues with it, that software will still be here today. So this begs on the question of responsibility. I always say, don't just be quick to develop products and applications and get excited about how accurate it is and how much it can scale and how many downstream tasks it could have and how many users will use it. All of that is great. But there's always a 2% of people that could get affected by that application negatively. And their lives will be affected. It go a very, very long way beyond what we can think. And remember that 2% of people are still very important in society. Right. Okay, so enough of the depressing news on, AI gone wrong, if AI goes wrong. And let's think about, if you have an AI ML model and you want to either build it responsibly or you want to fix some issues, how do you go about it? So the very first thing you want to look at is your data, right? As I said, we have a lot of dirty data from Reddit and so many different sources that are full of trash. Has some good things, but most of it is just rubbish. And you want to filter out this rubbish. You want to do data audits. Check your data, filter it out, make sure your data quality is quite good. That should actually be the very first thing you should do when you're thinking about building your ML models. Another thing you can do is carry out adversarial testing. And what that basically means is trying to break your model to see what sort of rubbish will come out of it. Check it for bias and toxicity. Assuming you have an NLP model, right, natural language processing model. We know, human language is really biased today. Another example of bias was the tiny images data set, which got recalled by MIT a couple of years ago. It's a data set, image data set, that has been used by a lot of people. But again, another researcher found out that it had a lot of toxic words, like the N words and child molester and all sorts of terrible words in it. And on the flip side, MIT could have carried out adversarial tests, on this model. And I'm not saying they didn't, but I believe if they did, they would have been able to find this out themselves before launching the data set. Another thing you want to do is think about the potential harms of your model. For example, you could have a chatbot. Chatbots have so many potential uses and applications and, potential to grow your businesses, but it has harms. It could be misleading to people. A person could be speaking with a chatbot and think it's a human being and probably reveal its secrets. There's actually another story of a Japanese chatbot that was used by a dating site. I think this was last year. And a lot of people loved chatting with this chatbot. I can't remember its name. It was so sweet. I mean, the girls loved chatting with it for hours, and the boys too. And after a couple of months, guess what it did? It started spitting out their data, revealing their addresses and their postcodes and everything, identity. And the world is like, oh my God, see what's happening. So the whole point is, think about the harms, right? We're talking about privacy here now. Think about the potential harms of your AI ML models, identify what they are, and then think of the mitigations that you can use to apply to them so that these harms do not occur. There's another thing called humans in the loop process. We know that AI, ML, they're machines. The humans just feed it the data and leave it to go, and it goes. But we can bring the humans back. It's really important. I mean, we don't need to bring these guys here that are bouncing up and down, but we can bring the humans back in the form of annotators and raters. And they can look at the labels. You can have objectives, responsible AI objectives, tasks, identify what they are, have safe labels, and tell the raters, we want you to test the system to see if it comes out with the right labels or not. And it's possible. I mean, these things cost money, right? Depending on how much funding you have. But these are important processes that we need to apply if we want to build our models responsibly. And once you've done, especially the humans in the loops process and your adversarial testing, you can then build classifiers, safety classifiers for your models, which basically means if there are any terms, for example, in the NLP example that we have, if there are any bias terms, like the N-word or other toxic terms that can go against ethnicity and other subgroups in society, the filters or the classifiers will just pull it out. So it wouldn't produce this output. And this is really important. Again, it's extra work that no one wants to do, right? Because you just wanted to build your AI ML model and just launch it. Yay, I've got a new product out. So these are additional things that will need to be done, but they're really important safety filters. Important because, again, whatever you're launching out there, it will go so far and wide like a wildfire, and you can't pull it back. The tiny images example that I gave, it was cited by 1,700 scholars from Google Scholar. In other words, we don't know who's still using those images, that data sets today. And regulation, even if the EU, we know the EU Act is coming up next year, I think. But even if the Act comes up and there's regulation, how many products and applications are they going to investigate? No one knows. No one knows how far these things go. So it's important right from the start, you put in the right metrics, the right processes, the right filters in place before it's launched. Because once it's gone, and you can't recall it back. And even when you recall it back, it's been used by a lot of people already. Second to the last thing you can do is aim for transparency. So usually in the responsible AI framework, we talk about safety, we talk about fairness. Fairness is thinking about the different subgroups in society, the people that could get affected, based on race, ethnicity, age, disability, sexual orientation. We talk about transparency, and transparency is basically just being able to show some more evidence or information about your ML models. Because when the problems come up, and we go back and ask the developers, they go, it's a black box. We don't know. We don't know how it came out of that output. And that's true. But there are ways we can actually just put some extra evidence. At Google, we have things called model cards and data cards. And I think some other researchers outside Google actually created that. You can just refer to the paper. But a model card basically is just documentation that shows some more information about the model. And the data card shows some more information about the data set. And even when filling out this information, it helps to start thinking a little bit more about the use cases of your data sets and your models. The last but not the least is privacy, and that's a big thing for everybody. I was just imagining, let's imagine AI gone really wrong, and I talk to Siri on my phone, and I say, hey Siri, could you just send 10 million from Elon Musk's account into my Revolut account, please? And that happens. I know that's very crazy. It's never going to happen, hopefully. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but I don't think that will happen. But privacy is really important. And I just gave an example of the chatbot, right? And people's data just being spewed all over the internet. And there are different methods you can apply to privacy, like differential federated learning, differential privacy. You just want to make sure you anonymize your data so that people's personal identifiable information is not shown. And these are important metrics that you need to take. All right, so I'm coming to the end. And this is just my little speech of it's really, really important, and I take this very seriously, that everyone in tech, whether you're working on AI or ML or not, you're working on a product, you're innovating something, you're creating something, but it's important that we build it properly. Let's do it right. Ethically, responsibly, transparent, trustworthy. Don't wait for the EU Act to come breathing down your necks to do it right. The onus is on everyone in tech. Even just talking about it can make a difference. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Toju, are you going to the after party in a little bit?
No, I'm going back home.
Oh, that's a shame.
Sorry.
You're going to be missing quite a bit. I hope our audience members can make it. You can still sign up for the after party. If you go to the website and you click on Congress Program, there's this little tab there, or a little button that you can click on called the Ultimate Music Experience, and sign up and join and hang out. Are you going to be here tomorrow, though? No.
I have to go back to my kids. Sorry.
Fair enough, fair enough. We all have our responsibilities, like creating responsible AI.
Yeah, I might have a robot in 2 years that can take care of them whenever we're
exactly.
partying, yeah,
or you could send the robots to the after party, because you've been standing for a long time right now. You deserve to sit down. So do I. Have a great time tonight, everybody. We have way more content for you tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to seeing what you think of the next day. Enjoy, have a good night, and another round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Toji.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.